hello. It's an immense pleasure for me to be participating in GitKon 2021. I hope you enjoyed all the amazing speakers and all the wonderful talks that we've had so far. So thank you very much for joining and welcome to the Visual Git Road to Technical Leadership. All right, let's get started. So why this talk and how is it relevant, and maybe what is Visual Git exactly? So if you're here at GitKon, you might already be using GitKraken, or maybe you're not, but it's fine. But it is basically a GUI for Git, as you can see in the screenshot. And for the story, when I was working in co-working spaces a few years ago, I think it was 2017, 2018, there you meet a lot of people, other entrepreneurs, other developers, and often we discuss about our current projects, about our programming tools, our programming environments. When I wanted to share a demo to switch to a working branch, people would see me using the GUI. They would see me use GitKraken. And they had always two very predictable reactions. The first one was, wait, you can use emojis inside Git commit messages? And yes, you can. So if you didn't already know, maybe you learned something from this talk already. You just have to know the emoji code. So there is this website, gitmoji.dev. They have a list of all the emojis you can use in your Git commit messages. And to be honest, our team only uses a subset of 10 emojis, and it really makes our word more colorful. So check it out. Okay, so the second reaction that most people had is, wait, why do you need a Git GUI? And at first I was very uncomfortable with this question because the truth is that I was simply bad at using the terminal and the CLI. I would always end up in headless detached state and lost in the Git void. So I would always prefer to track my position with the GUI. But as time passes, I realized that okay, first, it's perfectly fine to use a GUI as a learning tool, or a lot of people do. But also that what I thought was a weakness was turning into an asset, into an advantage, especially when I started to work with teams, with other developers, instead of working alone. With Visual Git, now I believe that developers, they can master new powerful moves. And I remember discussing about Dwayne from GitKraken before this talk, and we were saying how fascinating it was to see how tools can reshape the way we think reshape the way we process information, and it really opens new horizons. So yeah, this talk was specifically designed for programmers in mind, people who know programming, who know Git, and who are now also interested in learning a bit more about notions of leadership and management. So if you are in this situation and you don't really know how to get started, I have tried to put a practical 5-step plan to help you go from something you know, Git, to something you want to learn a bit more about, to namely leadership, management, and more. So we will explore together how Visual Git can be used toward that goal. Before that, my name is Mathieu. I am writing software for a living, in particular frontend with React. I have an engineering degree from Centrale Supélec in Paris, and I also completed a master degree in management and entrepreneurship at ESCP Business School. I'm not saying this in order to show off diplomas or anything. It is only to explain my unique perspective about creating value and entrepreneurship. I really believe in entrepreneurship as a way for people to find and even create meaning in their lives in a sustainable manner. And I think this requires both engineering and business. I am also on Twitter, so I don't have a lot of followers, and I would really be happy to connect with any of you if you want to discuss any ideas about entrepreneurship or this talk. Also, a quick announcement before we continue. Our company is hiring, Alohi. We really have an amazing team, and we have some really great products. We have an online faxing solution, and we are soon launching an electronic signature solution. We already have 2 million users and it's growing fast. We're scaling. So feel free to check our careers page. We are hiring for everything really, from legal to compliance, marketing, engineering, support. And we are located in Geneva, Switzerland. So it's a very nice city and the Swiss compensation is also great. So have a look. Okay, so GUI versus CLI. It was hard. It was very difficult to find reliable data, but I found a research paper who conducted a survey in Sweden in 2015. And thank you very much Sebastian and Robin, for letting me share some of the results in this talk. So what they found is basically what you would expect, that intermediate Git users, they often prefer to use the CLI. 70% of them only use the CLI. Actually, yeah, only 10% exclusively only use the GUI. So that would be myself included. And the interesting fact is why they prefer the GUI. Most of the time, it's because it's simpler, it's easier, it's a learning tool. And I think there is some truth to why it's a better learning tool. I was shared this study as well that shows that visual information gets to the brain 60,000 times faster than text. And I know it's probably hard to quantify and to give an exact number, but you get the idea. What I'm trying to prove, and I think this is the first true message from this presentation, is that it is fine to be part of a minority. What the statistics they often don't take into consideration is that they are averages, and in reality we are all different. And that's why we have so many different tools. Some people, they prefer to use Vim, some they prefer to use JetBrains or Visual Studio. In my case, I assume that one reason why I like to use Git GUI is because I have something called aphantasia, so I don't have clear mental images in my brain. So that might be one reason why I like visual tools. But at the end of the day, I'm not even sure, and the reasons, they shouldn't really matter. All right, so let's answer the main topic for this talk. So here I'm trying to suggest 5 steps, and they are not really steps. They are more like 5 ideas, 5 concepts that I hope can be useful to you. I made them as practical as possible while giving a lot of examples, so it's not too abstract. First step is to start working on the system. And this is definitely the most important transition. If you need to remember one single learning from this talk, it's this. We are all naturally starting to work in the system. If you are a developer, you may have tickets, tasks. You probably need to follow some procedures like code reviews, tests, maybe ISO compliance. And if you want to become a leader, what you need to do is to start thinking about how you can improve the system itself, how to make the processes better. And this talk is called the Visual Git Road, because I believe that Visual Git, can help you with this transition. I think Visual Git can give you an overview. I have some screenshots. So often when we are programming, we are focused on our own branch and we forget to look what is happening around us. And it's important to know, what the other team members are doing, what has been merged, what is still in progress, what version we are launching, what's the goal, what's the progress, what's, for example, some technical decisions that has been made and that also can be used in your own project, in your own branch. What I personally really like to do is also looking around into what's happening in other platforms. So for example, iOS, Android, even though I'm mostly contributing to web most of the time. So when you have this overview, you can start generating ideas. I'm going to give a few, but at some point you will need to come with your own ideas. First, maybe why not start using emojis in commit messages? So that's something you learn from this talk at the beginning. Maybe it was not just an anecdote. Maybe you can start using it in practice. You can find maybe a usage to distinguish cosmetics commits from functional commits, for example, with an emoji. Another common improvement is to make sure that the history is clean. So maybe you can identify some team members of some projects that don't squash commits properly in a good way. Maybe you can start noticing that the tags for versioning, there are differences between the projects, they're not aligned, they're not using same versions or same naming convention. Often you have some projects with a lot of stale branches that take space for nothing, and more. You can start generating ideas. They're not necessarily good at the beginning, but it's only this transition. You have to start somewhere. So step 1, work on the system. Step 2 is do more with less. And this is the step where you start identifying, choosing what is a good idea and what is not. I have a few rule of thumbs. First one is be agile. Yes, at Alohi, as I said, we recently reached 2 million users, which is insanely incredible. And despite that, we are trying to focus on keeping our agility as a startup. So our team is small. We don't have a lot of developers. So that's why we need to keep processes very simple and straightforward, especially Git flows, Git workflows. And the secret is just to do more with less. Optimize the Git flows. And I'm going to give some ideas, again, examples of how visualgit can help. And okay, I don't want to turn this talk into an advertisement for GitKraken, because what matters is the concept of Git UI. But to be honest, at the end of the day, I mean, GitKraken is really amazing. So if you're not using it, check out their webpage. They have a lot of features, a lot of integrations that you can do. Here's one example of how to integrate Git with task management. So Jira, for example, or Trello. That's really useful if you're not doing it. Me personally, I can look at the Jira tickets description directly into the Git history, which is very, very convenient. Another rule of thumb is to automate everything that can be automated. Sometimes we tend to forget that the Git flows, the CI/CD, these things can change. They are not set in stone. So if you have ideas, suggestions on how to improve this, you must suggest, propose, say a word. Slack, communication in general, very important. We use, for example, a test notification in a dedicated channel to know when tests are passing or not. And also I found this project, I haven't really tried, but it looked really very, very awesome. It's basically change log generation directly from the Git commit messages if you're using emojis. So I think this script would generate a change log and categorize all the changes, the most important one, cosmetic one, based on the emoji that you use in your commit messages. So check it out. And yes, again, you can do a lot more with GitKraken. Check out the list of features that they have on their website. If you're thinking at this point, maybe, I don't really need visualgit for these. Like, for example, the changelog, I can do this inside my CLI, and then I can just, check out the commit. I have a changelog. I don't need visualgit. I don't need GitKraken for this. And I would say maybe, think about non-technical team members, because not everyone knows Git. In your team, you might have product owners, maybe technical product managers. Maybe they can install GitKraken or Git GUI and use it as a history or a changelog. What are some ideas that can be put into place? So think about CI/CD, automation, and think about integrations. So do more with less. Step 3. Step 3 is act as a leader. It's very simple. It's not easy, but yes, if you want to be a leader, just be the leader that you want to be. I think a lot of organizations, they make a mistake, and it's not just me, but there is this Peter principle that was first highlighted by Lawrence Peter. So it's an observation that in a lot of organizations, in a lot of companies, people tend to rise to their maximum level of incompetence because the employees are promoted based on the success that they have on the previous job instead of the next job. So to give an example, if you are, imagine you are a very good junior developer, so you're promoted to a senior developer. And imagine you're a very, very good senior developer, and suddenly you're promoted to be a director. And maybe you have no clue, you have no idea what a director is supposed to do. And maybe you're very bad at being a director. You would prefer to be a programmer. And that's the moment when you stop being promoted because you're bad at being a director, so you stay a director forever. So that's definitely bad to promote people when they are doing a good job until they are not doing a good job anymore. And I try to fight back with what I call the Itachi principle. So it's a quote from Naruto. It's not really called Itachi principle, but Itachi said, "You don't become the Hokage to be acknowledged by everyone. The one who is acknowledged by everyone becomes the Hokage." So yeah, that's what you need to do. If you want to be a leader, act as a leader. The version that I don't really like is fake it until you make it, but that's the idea. Act as a leader, and one day you will become the leader that you want to be. A simple rule to do that is to care about people. I mean, what is a manager or a leader doing? They care about people. How can visualgit help? Well, let me give you an example from myself, from my own work. So when you see this, you probably see despair. Multiple attempts of doing something with the cache on the CI that was not working. I had no idea how things work. So if you see something like this in the history, provide assistance. Maybe you can help or assist. You don't necessarily have to be the smartest developer in the team to be the leader. I mean, when is the last time that you complimented a senior? Like, code reviews, we're not always here to highlight what is bad. Sometimes it's very important to show what is good, what is a good direction, what is efficient, what is effective. And that's what leaders do. They help empower the whole team. And when you think about CTOs, directors, sometimes they don't necessarily code. They don't necessarily know deep into the technologies itself. They don't know about every line of code, but they're just here to provide a direction and to help and to make everyone work together efficiently and effectively. All right, now let's take a look at step 4. Step 4 is foster team culture. So, okay, that's the moment in theory where you start switching from a practical approach, so to doing things, to learning the theory. I think in a lot of areas we make this mistake of learning the theory too soon. So for example, if you want to learn how to play an instrument, first you need to learn about music theory. I don't think that's necessarily a good approach. I think the theory should not come first. So if you want to be a manager, don't necessarily start buying books about science of management. No, start doing things. For example, act as a leader. And then when you start doing something, see how the theory can help you go further. And I have one resource that I really, really recommend to every developer who wants to learn about management. It's called the Manager's Playbook. So this is the link. And I'm not going to go through all the principles, but basically what you can learn is the abstractions, the concepts about management and what you're doing. So you can see that management, it's a predictability, ownership, purpose, progress, belonging. You will see a lot of information about how to conduct interviews, recruitment processes, team culture. That's the things that you need to learn as you go to maybe put a name on what you're already doing. If you want to also go further, it's maybe a good time to start learning about management theory. So if you don't know where to look, I have some subjects that I personally love. So science of organizations, maybe you can Google some books and resources about this. Psychology of teamwork, I think is seriously underrated, but to understand how a team interaction, how it's made and how it works. Entrepreneurship, theory and practice. There is a lot of theory about entrepreneurship, again, often underestimated. Communication can help, so presentation skills, for example, or effective communication with team members. These are skills usually called soft skills that you can start learning. Another source of learnings is books. So yeah, read books. I have these 3 books that I would highly recommend. It's my personal favorite. So The Living Happiness, Creativity Inc. and Quiet. And I have a list of all the books that I've read on my blog. So you can check the link. I give a rating to all the books. And if you pick anything that is rated by myself above 7 or 8, it's probably a good book that I would recommend to everyone. Okay, so the last step, step 5, and it's inspire the world around you. And for this one, I don't really have bullet points anymore. Now it's your turn to figure out what you want to do. So I may have some tips though. If you were thinking that maybe the last step was, okay, so how do I get my promotion? How do I kill my boss to become the manager? And how do I get, this manager title? Well, this talk is really not about this. I think leadership is not about title. I think a lot of people with a title, they're not necessarily good leaders, and a lot of people who are good at managing are not necessarily managers. So yeah, think about people that you think are inspiring. Maybe it's Bill Gates, maybe it's Eminem, and usually these people, they were inspiring way before they had any kind of title. So yeah, be humble. Another maybe counterintuitive tip that I have is also, if you want to be essential, start making yourself replaceable. And yeah, when you think about it, if you're doing a job and you want to, step up kinda, well, you start to think about not doing your job, but how people do your job. So you might want to start focusing on documentation, writing how-to tutorials or blog articles, starting to think about the processes that are in place to make your job better. So that's the way where you can start hiring people to do the job that you were previously doing, and you are the one designing, being the architect of what people need to do. Okay, so let's recap quickly what we've gone through so far. So first is, okay, be open-minded. Everyone is different. That is a very important lesson in management. People have different needs and their brains are wired very differently. Use visualgit. It's one way to go from technical to non-technical. We've seen some steps, some concepts. Work on the system. Start identifying good ideas by making more with less. Then simply try to be the leader that you want to be. Then see how your ideas can turn into team principles, team values, and simply try your best to be an inspiring person. I have one more trick. So if you've listened so far and you think this is relevant to you, and you really want to try applying these principles in real life tomorrow, there's a trick. So you need to act in order, but you might want to plan backward. If you haven't seen the very famous TED talk about from Simon Sinek about it's called Start with Why, go watch it. But basically what you need to do is first think about why. Why do you want to be inspiring? Why do you want to be a leader? Why do you want people to follow your ideas? Then start thinking about how you would implement this. What would the team that you envision be like? What kind of values the people in your team would have? Then try to think how yourself you can be that person that you aim to be. And only then you can start thinking about what actions you can take to make this work. So act in order, but plan backward. All right, so our company was hiring at the beginning of the talk, and so we are probably still hiring. Just want to highlight 2 positions in engineering. So if you liked anything that we've said so far and you want to meet the team, well, we have a lot of roles, but in particular, we're looking for backend developers and React developers. So if you want to work with me and the team, then yeah, you can just check out the careers page or contact me directly on Twitter. That's it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much to GitKraken and to GitKon, to Axosoft. That was a super event, and I'm very glad to be part of it. All right. Thank you very much, and see you later.